Behold this striking affair, dear friends. We embark on a journey through the delicate corridors of the human heart, where intimacy meets resistance and relationships teeter between devotion and withdrawal. Today, I present Fearful Avoidance and Breaking the Cycle of On-Again, Off-Again relationships. Here we explore a curious attachment style that navigates between the magnetic pull of closeness and the desperate urge to escape. Allow me to share a few stories and insights, sprinkled with both solemn reflection and a hint of wry amusement, so that we may glean wisdom from these tumultuous emotional waters. Picture a familiar scene. Two people seemingly caught in an endless waltz of togetherness, separation, and reunion, each chapter leaving them drained yet strangely drawn back to one another. The fearful avoidant, much like a seasoned actor slipping in and out of roles, experiences both an aching desire for intimacy and an almost primal terror of vulnerability. The result is a pattern of relationships that start with promise and passion. Yet, at the faintest whiff of genuine closeness, an entire script of sabotage plays out. I must run, they think, for if I stay, my sense of self is in jeopardy. Allow me to conjure a scene. A friend of mine, let's call her Clara, spent the better part of a year with a man who absolutely enthralled her. He was gentle, bright-eyed, devoted. She found comfort in his kindness and a sort of wondrous adventure in his zest for life. Then, just as the relationship began to bloom into genuine commitment, Clara felt her heartbeat quicken, not with joy, but with an odd sensation of dread. A part of her whispered, "This closeness could suffocate me. I must flee." And flee she did, breaking things off in a flash of self-protection. Yet, scarcely a month later, she found herself enveloped by waves of nostalgia for the warm connection she once had. Wistful for the familiarity, the tenderness, she reached out again, hoping to rekindle what she had so abruptly cast away. He welcomed her return, and for a time all was well, until that same lurking terror surfaced. And so, on and off they went, adrift in the same disconcerting cycle. In that dance, we spy a hallmark of the fearful avoidant, a negative view of self, compounded by a suspicion toward others. An internal voice might say, "I'm flawed, and so are they. Better to abandon or be abandoned, lest I suffer more deeply." This stance yields a curious predicament. Life alone feels unmoored, yet togetherness exposes old wounds. One can imagine how exhausting it becomes, for it tests the emotional sinews of both parties involved. Observe how the fearful avoidant might convince themselves everything is fine once they're free of a partnership. Their environment appears peaceful. They can breathe, untroubled, until that day or hour when loneliness strikes, or a sudden recollection of some tender moment reminds them that self-sufficiency, though reassuring, lacks the warmth of meaningful connection. Then, with a longing reminiscent of a nostalgic traveler, they return, only to bolt once more once closeness becomes intense. Why does this happen? The roots typically trace back to inconsistent or traumatic early experiences, formative bonds that taught them on a deep level that closeness is at once necessary for survival and a peril. Over time, these contradictory lessons produce a peculiar tension, a longing for genuine acceptance, love, and warmth, paired with the paralyzing fear that love will inevitably bring pain or loss of identity. Imagine a child who receives comfort from the same caretaker, who sometimes reacts harshly or unpredictably. The child grows into an adult who loves passionately but struggles to stay grounded when intimacy grows deep. But let us not merely diagnose. Allow me to share some insights, gleaned from personal reflections and observations, on how to break this cycle for those who recognize the pattern in themselves. Learn to set boundaries within a relationship before running away. Fearful avoidants often imagine that staying means complete entanglement, a sense of being swallowed up by the other person's needs or expectations. The flight response is swift when that feeling of suffocation arises. Yet one might discover that requesting personal space, discussing the need for time alone, or clarifying emotional boundaries can soothe the panic. Rather than going from zero to gone, a carefully stated boundary, I need an evening to myself each week, or I prefer to share my vulnerable thoughts in smaller increments, can offer breathing room. Seek outside emotional support. A fearful avoidant might rely exclusively on the romantic partner for soothing and validation, rendering it disastrous to separate, even when separation is best. Building a strong network, a safe friend, a trusted therapist, a support group, creates a cushion of reassurance. Instead of returning to a partner out of desperation, one can lean on others for solace, perspective, and the tenderness we all crave at times. This approach relieves the beleaguered bond of such intense pressure, allowing conflicts to be viewed with calmer eyes. Give yourself time to grieve and heal after a breakup. Some dear souls might jump ship only to discover they've not truly faced the heartbreak. When pangs of longing overwhelm them, they rush back in, convinced those emotions mean the relationship was fated. But often, it merely indicates that the grieving process was never completed. One must be courageous enough to fully encounter sadness, regret, or loneliness. Journaling can serve as an emotional anchor, where unfiltered thoughts pour onto the page, safe from self-censorship. Others channel that sorrow through creative outlets, from painting to composing letters never sent. As a certain wise friend told me, you must be a witness to your own pain if you wish it to release its grip. Recognize that self-worth is tied to accepting your humanity. Fearful avoidance may take great pride in a stoic, unyielding persona. Yet beneath that facade often lies a hunger for closeness, embracing one's capacity for vulnerability, allowing tears, confession, and that essential request for help is not weakness. It's a testament to authenticity. If you do not first believe you are worthy of love and belonging, every intimate relationship will feel like an assault upon your defenses. By accepting your nature as a person who needs warmth and support, you remove the shame that fuels the flight mechanism. Confront unresolved trauma. If early attachments taught you that a caretaker could both comfort and harm, the psyche stores conflicting messages that reverberate long into adulthood. Somatic therapy, EMDR, or other trauma-focused modalities help unravel old stories that insist closeness is a source of ruin. By gently confronting the painful roots, you can rewire that internal script into something kinder. I can stay present, I am safe, I can trust carefully chosen people and trust myself to leave if genuine harm arises. True transformation often arises when we bravely face the shadows that once loomed so large. Consider also the power of language. Once a fearful avoidant discerns the shape and cause of their anxieties, they can learn to convey them with elegance to the person they care for. I sometimes feel overwhelmed when we spend too many days in a row together. It's not because I doubt you or our bond, but because I'm learning to regulate my own emotions. This sort of honesty can be profoundly disarming, offering clarity rather than confusion, and bridging the gap between the longing for closeness and the impulse to push it away. Let's return, for a moment, to dear Clara. After her third or fourth off-again moment with her beloved, she decided to seek therapy with a counselor who specialized in attachment wounds. There, she unwrapped the heartbreak of her childhood, where affection was sometimes withheld, sometimes bestowed with chaotic unpredictability. She never learned how to ask for breathing space or voice her discomfort without vanishing from the conversation entirely. Through diligent practice, She discovered how to signal her growing anxiety before it became unmanageable, how to claim an evening alone without stoking fear that she was abandoning the relationship. Gradually, the cycle slowed, and she found a more stable rhythm. Not perfect, mind you, but a far cry from the dizzying dance she once performed. Now, for anyone listening and nodding along, convinced that these words ring true in their own life, I offer this final reflection. The on-again, off-again pattern is not some permanent life sentence. It may feel mesmerizing, perhaps even addictive, but it's born of old wounds rather than unstoppable fate. If you can name it, I move toward closeness, yet I flee from it. You are already shining a light on that hidden dynamic. Step by step, with compassionate friends and wise counselors, you can reshape your narrative. In fact, forging a stable and enduring relationship involves shifting from that old refrain of, "I'm flawed and so are you, so let's brace ourselves for heartache," to a gentler melody, "I am worthy of love, and so are you. Let's share honest communication that allows for both closeness and personal space." The essence of secure attachment is a calm confidence that closeness needn't devour individuality, and that alone time needn't spell disaster. In a secure dynamic, there is mutual trust, a sense that your partner respects your boundaries, and you respect theirs, even when nerves are frayed. The biggest secret in taming this emotional tempest: learning to be at home in yourself. Yes, that's the heart of it. If you discover ways to relish solitude without feeling exiled, if you cultivate dependable support beyond romantic entanglements, and if you dare to face hidden traumas so that they no longer dictate your every move, then a balanced connection becomes possible. You start to trust in your own capacity to survive pain, to express your needs, and to remain solid even when your innermost self feels exposed. Take heart, my friends, for there is solace in understanding that these cycles can indeed be broken. It may take courage, self-awareness, and more than a little self-compassion. Yet once you've confronted the old illusions whispering that intimacy equals entrapment, you'll find there is a far broader horizon. In its golden glow, closeness and freedom become harmonious rather than irreconcilable. You realize that a relationship, when nurtured with boundaries, empathy, and truth, can actually be a sanctuary, not a prison. So let us end this day's reflection on a hopeful note. The labyrinth of fearful avoidance is not impenetrable. The longing for connection may coexist with the dread of it, but through mindful practice, honest grieving, and a willingness to let others in, you can step out of that cycle of breaking and mending, departing and returning. Indeed, the world grows warmer when you dare to shed your defenses and allow your heart to meet another, gently, willingly, with trust that perhaps this time, the door can stay open without unleashing those old ghosts of panic and shame. Until we meet again, remember that forging true intimacy begins with forging a stable, compassionate relationship with yourself. Embrace that idea, share it if you can, and keep shining light on your journey toward wholeness. May it bring you the lasting, tender connections you so richly deserve.
If you believe this video might help someone dear to you, share it with them. A small gesture on your part could mean the world to a friend in need.